So that shiny new game just came out, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, and you want to know if it's worth your time, right? Let's take a look at the game for some first impressions. Keep in mind this is not a full review, this is a quick look at the game. I played the game for about 5 hours, so I'll show some footage of the game while describing it and giving a few thoughts on it. Right in the main menu, there's actually some multiplayer mini games that you can do. After looking at those, I went into the game itself, and right away, Goro Majima sits down on a chair, and he's wearing a pirate outfit. Throughout the game, it seems to go back to him sitting on this chair, because he narrates some parts of the game this way. It then goes back to half a year earlier, and he's laying on the beach, and it looks like whatever boat he was on crashed. A kid walks up to him and offers him some water, and the kid's name is Noah. Goro actually has amnesia. He remembers some small things here and there, but basically remembers almost nothing, not even his name. Goro ended up on Rich Island, which is very small and not too far from Hawaii. Noah also has a pet tiger named Goro, which is amusing because the human, Goro Majima, doesn't even know that's also his own name. I ended up fighting someone named Keith and his goons, and then some other pirates right after that. The orange bar on the top left is your health, and below that is your heat gauge. It charges when you land attacks, and once that's full, you can do a special attack that does even more damage. The circle that's next to those two bars is your madness gauge. That one charges over time. When the circle is full, you can create doppelgangers of yourself, which is actually a pretty strong attack. There's fighting abilities that you can buy and upgrade, and that's in the pause menu. There's various different upgrades, different attack moves, and simple things like more health and more damage. To upgrade those, they all cost reputation and money, but first you need to actually unlock them too, which you just do by playing the game, I guess. A little later in the game, you'll have an additional attack style. So you have the default Goro fighting style, and then you can press a button and switch to your pirate fighting style. The moves and weapons are different for each style too. The pirate one can also use guns, and I did eventually get a pistol that I could use, more like a flintlock really, but you have to stop, charge it, and then shoot it while in battle. I think you'll also get some more guns later on too. After 5 hours in this game, I still prefer the default fighting style the most, I think, but that could still change. When you're freely roaming around areas, you'll come across groups of people who want to fight you, and you can either walk up to them and fight, or you can just run by them. You don't have to fight them. But if you get too close, the battle will automatically begin. I played on mouse and keyboard, and the fighting felt a little bit clunky to me, mainly because of the key bindings. I did leave it at default, and I slowly got a little bit more used to it over time, but I do think that a controller would probably be easier to fight with at the default settings. Besides upgrading your fighting abilities, also in the pause menu is your inventory, Goro pirates, and smartphone. Sometimes you'll come across a location where you can rest, called a hideout, and that location also has a chest. You can store items there from your inventory, and also if your inventory gets full, the overflow items that you pick up or receive will just go straight to the chest at the rest areas. I'll talk about the Goro pirates a little bit later on, but the smartphone, when you get that, has a few uses. There's a message app on there, but I never got messages in 5 hours, so I don't know if I will. Then there's the camera roll, which is where your pictures go, and yes, that means there's a camera too. When you pull up the camera, it's like a Suedo first person mode, and you can take photos or selfies, and you can put a few filters on people too, like dog ears or a pineapple, for example. Then there's a music app, which shows all the music that you've heard in the game so far, and a cooking app, which shows you different meals that you can cook when you rank up your cooking. I'll get into cooking a little bit more in a moment, but back to Noah now. He, for some reason, just super likes Goro, meaning the Yakuza human, not Goro the tiger, and Noah sticks to him like glue. Chapter 1 of the game begins soon after fighting those groups of people after Noah finds you, and then he takes you to his house, which is also a bar, the only bar on Rich Island. Rich Island is very, very small, and is basically just that bar and then a small dock area. At the bar is Noah's dad and his sister Moana. Here, Goro finds out that there's a bunch of Yakuza at the nearby Nele Island, and since he's Yakuza and can't remember his name or past, that's his next destination. The Yakuza are on that island because they're cleaning up nuclear waste. The story of that goes like this. There is a religious group on the island named the Palakana, and they got lots of money to store nuclear waste on that island. But then the radiation started to affect the ocean, so then the Yakuza came over saying that they had a safe way to get rid of the waste. However, first Goro needs a boat to actually get there. He goes around asking some people, but they all say no. Some points in the game you can freely roam some areas, but it's not open world or anything. There's boundaries. Like on the beach in the beginning of the game, you'll run into an invisible wall with red symbols if you try to go too far. You can swim out into the water, but there's not a whole lot to do there. You can catch some fish, which is useful for cooking, I guess. As for the exploring in the game, you'll come across several items. The most common is silver briefcases, and there's a whole lot of those that you'll find. In those cases are random things, money, watches to sell, and different plates to sell, for example. Then there's a lot of different seeds that you can pick up for planting. You can use the seeds at certain areas in the game and then fertilize them to make them grow. The point of that is to have more food for cooking, but honestly I'm not sure how much I'll actually do that. A little later that day, Heath, the pirate wannabe that Goro already beat up on the beach, shows up and attacks Noah's dad. Goro shows up and beats them up yet again. At the hideout where you rest for the night, there's a master system. A master system is a game console that has various games on it. Most games these have question marks, I guess, that you need to find, buy, or unlock those somehow. But I'll give examples of 2 games that are on there, Penguin Land and Fantasy Zone. Again, old classic Sega games, just like the multiplayer ones in the main menu. In the morning, Goro learns cooking and planting, and it's pretty simple. And after that, eventually he goes to the docks area. Here, I went to some merchants to buy and sell items, and I learned that I could feed animals. The more I feed them, the friendlier that they are to me, and they'll give you stuff in return too. At the giant pirate ship is where I fight Keith yet again, as well as a chef and the captain himself. I did not realize that my health was so low, and when I got to the captain, he just one-shot me. The next go around, I started with full health, so it was just fine. But some battles you can pause and go to your inventory and take some health items. After Goro defeated the previous captain, the chef and other crew members make Goro their captain, and this is also where you get your smartphone. Even though he's now a captain, he still needs a navigator. It just so happens that Noah's dad used to be a treasure hunter and navigator. He was a treasure hunter because Noah has a sickness and he coughs a lot, and it could be fatal. He wanted to get money to help Noah out, but that just never panned out. The problem with recruiting Noah's dad is that his dad just doesn't like Goro, and then they have a fight. Noah and his dad end up going with Goro on the ship, and Moana, Noah's sister, stays behind to run the bar. Goro names the ship after the tiger, also named Goro. The ship is now called Goromaru. Surprisingly, we get a little musical here on the ship started by Noah, which was actually really unexpected. It was very theatrical too. Once you get on the ship and start sailing, that starts chapter 2, and this is where you can do a ship battle for the first time. While piloting a ship, there are several things that you can actually do. You can switch views while piloting the ship, or even just let go of the wheel and walk around the ship itself. There are several reasons why you'd want to walk around the ship. Number 1 is if a crew member gets injured in battle, you can help them back up by walking up to them. And also after battles in safe areas, usually at a lighthouse, you can give items to crew members to boost their morale if they're feeling low, but you have to have certain items first. Another reason is that you can shoot a rocket launcher while in battle and walking around the ship. It does really high damage too. In battle, while on the ship, you can shoot the cannons on each side of the ship, and then also machine guns that shoot straight ahead. You can boost and repair the ship too. I found ship battles extremely easy actually, at least all the ones that I've done so far. Noah gets around to naming the crew the Goro Pirates. When it comes to using the ship in free roam, there's also boundaries there too. You can't really go that far off, and the ship is kind of slow, so it's just best to follow the pathways that boost you a bit. My first stop was at an island to find treasure, and every time you go to one of those islands, it's really simple. There's several groups of people that you have to fight, and then at the end you can open a chest to get treasure. The treasure is money and reputation, both of which can be used to upgrade your abilities. One other item that you can find in those chests are rings. When you have rings, you can put 1 ring on each of your 10 fingers in the pause menu. They give you various buffs like plus 60 bullet defense, for example. I then decided to go to another treasure island right after that one, and man, I really struggled on this one. I kept dying at the end like 3 times in a row before I finally won that battle. What I did was I spent all of my money on upgrades, and then I equipped that ring that I found in that treasure chest. Eventually, I do get to Nele Island, and immediately the Palakana fight me. Then a totally different Palakana shows up with another Yakuza guy, Shigaki, and they both drive Goro to where the rest of the Yakuza are. Shigaki also tells Goro his name is Goro. In the church later on, where all the Yakuza are, Goro finds out that his sworn brother, Saejima, is on his way there and will be in Honolulu tomorrow, so it's presumed that he'll give up being captain and go back with his brother for treatment. But when they get to the docks, they see another boat with people loading up, and that boat is going to Madlantis. They decide to go there to talk to someone about some missing treasure. Madlantis is basically a lawless place for criminals, and it's hidden in some rocks in the ocean. It's run by organizations, but the biggest organization is ran by someone named Queen Michelle. She actually created something at Madlantis called the Pirates Coliseum, which is where people dress up and act like pirates, have pirate boats, cannons, all of that, and they fight each other to victory or death. So on the way there, Goro and the crew decide to also enter that Coliseum competition. Also, let's talk about the Goro Pirates tab in the pause menu now. That's where you can do several things. I myself only had a few unlocked in this tab up to this point. I had crew formation, a treasury of treasures, and challenges unlocked. Pirates Coliseum, bounties, and bonds was still locked for me when I got off the game. Crew formation lets you change out which crew is assigned to what weapons. A treasury of treasure shows you what treasure that you've found already, as well as clues to other treasures. Challenges shows you various ways that you can earn reputation. Once at Madlantis, most of the area is blocked off. You can explore a little bit, but to see the rest of it, you'll need permission from the queen. I played a little mini game here where you can use a bat and hit cannonballs at explosive barrels, and that was pretty fun. And you can use the points that you get from that to purchase items from the guy who runs that game too. I think I remember seeing different clothing and maybe some music that you could buy. Besides that, there's a few little other games that you can play, like blackjack for example. I tried it and I lost money. That sucks. I also came across Keith again, and I beat him up for like the 4th time now. I find out that Goro has a bounty on his head from Jack the Collector, and that's the name of the last captain of the boat that Goro currently has. As it turns out, Jack is an officer in the Mortimer Armada, armada, and that armada has a whole lot of people and ships. The plan is to then defeat Mortimer himself to get rid of the bounty, and the best way to do that is to draw him out. It just so happens that he's a huge star in the Pirates Coliseum, so all they need to do is join that competition and just keep on winning. Then eventually Mortimer will have no choice but to face him in the Coliseum. To even enter the Coliseum though, they have to win a qualifier first, and to even enter that qualifier, they need a better ship that's fixed and a minimum of 15 crew members. So the next step is to go to Honolulu and find a specific guy to repair their ship. Also, Goro's plan to leave with his brother is now on hold. While on the way to Honolulu, I stopped at another treasure island, and boy did I come across a weirdo, Captain Beef. I beat him up pretty easily and I recruited him into the crew.
You stand before Captain Beef. I'm a grade A, prime cut treasure hunter.
I do finally get to Honolulu, and here's a few things about it. You can get a taxi to take you places, but it costs money. I personally would just run to save cash. Then there's various clothing and food stores that you can go to, and then finally, a little later on, Goro and Noah got some free motorized scooters, kinda like Segways, and they can use that to travel around Honolulu. It's way better and faster to use those. The remainder of my time on the game was spent running around Honolulu, recruiting people, getting into even more fights, and then I did get off the game. I did end up recruiting about 3 different people though before I got off, and a couple of those people are gonna fix the ship up. I assume if I played a little bit longer, I'd be able to fix up my ship and then possibly upgrade or customize it, and then enter the Pirate Coliseum for the first time for the pirate ship battles. One thing I want to talk about that's been really bugging me is the graphics. At some times they look nice, and other times they look quite bad. I was on max settings at 1440p, DLSS on quality, and the performance was great. I had no issues there, but the graphics a lot of the time looked old to me, like low texture resolution and models. It kind of reminded me of like old PS2 games or something, and at other times the game genuinely looked like a modern game. Maybe it's just me or some issue on my end, but the graphics are kind of iffy, I think, especially depending on different locations. The combat is fun and engaging, and you have different attack combinations, and you can even unlock more and more and then upgrade them. You're always fighting groups of people too. Sometimes it's one-on-one, but groups are way more common. I feel like the story and game as a whole is just super wacky. It's all over the place, but honestly that makes it even more fun to play. I will say that I have not been a huge fan of this game series. I've played a little bit of about 4 different games, and this one is the best one that I've played of those 4. It's just more open and wacky to play, and I'm into that. Though that's my personal opinion. Whether or not this is your type of game, I'll see you on the next one.